Let's talk about the 26 books on my physical TBR that I really hope to read this year in 2026, and my other reading goals for the year. Hi, my name is Emily Crow from The Cozy Crow, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we are talking about my 2026 reading goals, which includes the 26 books I really hope to read off of my physical TBR, plus a couple other goals that I'm really excited to talk about. I don't usually set a specific number for the total books I want to read in the year. I want to follow my mood. I want to give myself grace and just read what sounds good to me. But I do have a couple specific goals and focuses that I want to work on for this year. You can see this is my physical TBR. We are in my closet, hence my clothes and my shoes are right there because this is the space that I have in my home. So these are all the books on my physical TBR that I have physical copies of that I would love to get through, whether they're books I purchased that I'm really excited about reading or whatnot. If you want a tour, because I do have this organized in a way that works for me, let me know. Let's move on to the 26 specific books that I have pulled out of my physical TBR that I really want to prioritize reading this year. And then after I talk about all those, we'll talk about a couple other goals of mine for my reading. I have the stack behind me. I am sitting off to the side so I can kind of show the books here when I want to display them. But let's first talk about how I selected these books in the first place. So I tried to look at generally my reading statistics for how many books I read that are in different genres so that I can be more intentional about selecting the genres that I am most likely to read. So of course I am going to make sure that I have a pretty even proportion of books in genres I read quite a lot of. So for example, last year with my 25 in 2025, I found that there was just a lot of fantasy and I was not getting enough breaks from fantasy towards the end of the year. And so I'm trying to be mindful this year about making sure the amount of fantasy on my 26 and 2026 list is comparable to the total ratio of fantasy books that I typically read in a year, if that makes sense. So in looking at my statistics, it's about a third of my reading is romance, about a third of my reading is fantasy, and about a third of my reading is all the other genres combined. And so that's kind of how I split up my books this year. 26 isn't easily divisible by 3, but I have around a third of my books in this list are romance, around a third are fantasy, around a third are all the other genres. I tried to pick books that I have had on my TBR for quite a while or that I've been really excited about reading but haven't made the time to get to. I have a couple books from the same author, so when I'm trying to finish an author's series, I have a couple books of theirs on this list just so that I can give myself extra motivation for actually completing it. I have a couple other series I'm looking to start. And in general, I'm just really excited to get to all 26 of these books. I also tried to order them in the order that I thought I would read them maybe, and that actually worked pretty well for me in 2025, where I tried to select which books I thought I'd read in January versus February versus March. And of course I read them whenever I felt like it, but that meant that towards the beginning of the list were the books that I thought were more appropriate for wintertime and then spring and then summer. So if there was something that was more seasonal, I would read it kind of closer to that season that it takes place in, just so that I was more likely to be in the mood to read that book when I got to that point in the list, if that makes sense. Giving myself all of the room to read these books whenever, but I was just trying to think and plan ahead for which books I'd read during which parts of the year, trying to organize when I think I'll read the books so that it makes sense mood-wise for me. So let's start running through that list. Very top of the list. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Last year, I continued reading Mistborn. I think I read the first book in that series the year before in 2024, but I read a handful of books by Brandon Sanderson. I'm working through his whole Cosmere backlist. The next one in order is The Way of Kings. This is really intimidating. It is very long. I don't know how many pages. It's like 1,000 pages. So I have not picked it up to read it. It is like a 45-hour audiobook, which is not really doable for me to get from the library. So I've purchased a copy of the audiobook so I can take it at my own pace. I just haven't started because, again, it's intimidating. But I really want to prioritize this because I've heard amazing things about this series. I've loved all of Brandon Sanderson's other works, and they haven't necessarily felt like super, super long books. So I think this book is not going to feel as long as it looks, but it still is intimidating. And this is the first in the series. The next book I have in mind is The Poppy Fields by Nikki. And I loved her book, The Measure. That was a speculative fiction that gave me a lot of things to think about internally. I really liked having the different perspectives of different people and learning from all of them. This is, again, another speculative fiction where I think people are trying to get rid of certain memories, and so they're going somewhere kind of on a retreat to get rid of those memories, if I remember correctly. It sounded very fascinating, and I really loved her first book, and so I'm excited to read the next book by her. I have a baby. He was not sleeping like I told him to. Every time I try to film, you will not actually stay down for a nap. It's like, I have a baby on my lap, so we are making do. If you hear any baby noises, that is why he is kind of falling asleep. So hopefully we can get through this video. The next book that I hope to read, again, kind of intimidating because there's just so much good talk about this book, is Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And I have not actually read any of his books. I did see The Martian, and I know that this book is being made into a movie, I think in March. So I really want to get to this book before that. I've heard the audiobook is really, really great. I've heard that it's really funny, but also kind of a heavier sci-fi. So I think it's going to be a good fit for me too. And I've just heard really, really good things about it. Again, kind of intimidating because of that, but I do in general like sci-fi, so I think that this is going to be a win for me. The next on my list is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I am all caught up on all of her other adult romances that have kind of like a slight paranormal element to them. One of them has ghosts, one of them has like time travel, but again, it's a very slight paranormal element. I'm pretty sure that in this book, the two love interests have the same song in their head, and so they realize they are both getting this premonition about a song. And so I'm really excited to read this. I've enjoyed her works. None of them have been like 5 stars total wins, but they've all been really good, like 4-star range that I've enjoyed. And so I am interested in continuing on reading from Ashley Poston. Next book on my list is Gideon the Ninth. Again, another science fiction that is kind of funny from what I've heard. I have heard that this gets a little bit confusing with the amount of names and the world and things. So I'm just going to enjoy what I can from it and try to not put too many expectations for me and like my understanding of this book. I think that I'm going to really enjoy it. I am looking forward to, a funny hard sci-fi, and we'll see, I guess, if I really like this series. Oh, it's a trilogy, and I think all 3 books are out, which would be really nice if I enjoy this to be able to continue in the series. But it's about lesbian necromancers. Also sounds like it could be a riot. Next book on my list is Story of My Life by Lucy Score. I've had this in my stack for a while. Look at this beautiful edge. I'm kind of biased. I do love stenciled edges. I have read a little bit of Lucy Score's work, and this, I think, is a standalone romance. It's a little bit on the longer side, but I have enjoyed other works by her in the past, and so I'm hoping that I do really enjoy this one as well. Excuse you. You tooted, huh? You tooted. Since I can't move because my baby's on my lap, it's a little hard to grab these books. I'm really excited to finish off this series in 2026. This is the Tomes and Tea Book 4, Alchemy and a Cup of Tea by Rebecca Thorne. This is a cozy fantasy. We're following Raina and Kianth as they are finding their place in this mountain village. Again, this is the final book in the series, so I'm really excited to read this. Again, colored edges, which I really like. I did not quite get to finish this series in 2025 because I really like the audiobooks. I love audiobooks in general, and the audiobook for this was just taking a bit too long from my library, and so I have not gotten to it yet. So I am prioritizing getting to it this year to be able to check that series off my list. Next book on my list is The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. This has been republished last year or maybe even the year before that, all of her older works, and I have not enjoyed her older series quite as much as her newest series, the When in Rome series, but I still think this is a lighthearted, funny rom-com type of a romp, and they're pretty short as far as romances go. They're not crazy long, so this would be a really good palate cleanser. The Off Limits Rule, I don't even know what it's about. I just know that this is another one of her backlist books that I have been meaning to get to. Another cozy fantasy, because I do really like a good cozy fantasy. This is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst, and I know that this follows the sentient plant that was in the first book. Again, the colored edges, I can't help myself. I really, really loved her first book in this like companion series, The Spell Shop, and I'm really looking forward to reading another book in the series. And I'm pretty sure a third book is coming out in the series later on this year. So it would be really great to get all caught up on the series to prep for the third book. Another Sarah Adams backlist I want to get to, The Temporary Roomie. You can see a little bit more what's going on the cover of the book. She's pregnant. He looks like a medical person or a nurse of some sort. This should be, again, a really fun, easy, breezy, cheesy rom-com by Sarah Adams. And then after I read both of these books, I think I'm all caught up on her backlist that has been traditionally published. I'm pretty sure. I've got another sci-fi for you. I've been meaning to read more sci-fi. This is the year I'm going to read more sci-fi because I really enjoy sci-fi. I just am very selective about what I actually pick up. This is System Collapse by Martha Wells. This is the next book in the Murderbot series. I've been very slowly working through this series. I've loved every single one of these books. Multiple 5 stars in the series, definitely a 5-star series for me. And this is the last book that has been published. So I am finally getting to the end. Again, I've been taking it slow. They've been really great palate cleansers, and it's a little sad to think about. I really hope that more books come out in the future, but Martha Wells, I think, is battling cancer right now. So she has other things that are higher priority for her right now. So I hope she's doing well, but I'll keep an eye out for future books, but this is the last book. I love Murderbot, how human they are. They are a construct bot combination, and they are kind of fed up with humanity. And they just like having their own introverted alone time watching their sitcoms and whatnot. They're so relatable and so funny, but I really love delving into the world of Murderbot. I'm excited to finish off this series for now. I have another backlist romance that I'm really hoping to read. This one is Hannah Bonam-Young's Next to You. And I know that there's a couple others that I haven't gotten to, but this is one that had caught my eye, so I had purchased it. I think these two are making over a bus, if I remember correctly. Again, I've had this on my shelf for a little while and just haven't gotten around to it. So I'm really excited to start reading more of Hannah Bonam-Young's backlist because I have loved her books, and Out on a Limb was one of my favorite romances in 2024. So I would love to find more really solid wins from this author in the romance world. So I gotta work through her backlist in order to do that. Continuing in another fantasy series, this is Vilest Things by Chloe Gong. This is her adult series. I've loved her YA books. Did not enjoy her adult debut quite as much, but still something that I really want to read and catch up on. This is the second book in the series. I know it's inspired by Antony and Cleopatra, and the first book did end on quite a cliffhanger, so I'm excited to get to this book. I've been kind of spreading them out because I don't know when the third book is coming out in this series. I kind of think it might be coming out towards the end of 2026. Maybe I heard that, and so it would be really nice to be caught up in time to continue on in the series, to finish off the series. I think it's going to be just a trilogy, but I've been trying to pace myself from reading the first book, second book in preparation for the third book so that I don't have too long of time in between books. So it's about time that I get to reading this. Another romance I've been hoping to read for a while is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I've not read any of her books, but I know that this is part of an interconnected standalone series. I think there may be 3 books in that series. So I'm really hoping that I enjoy this book enough that I want to continue reading more from this author because I do want to read more books by BIPOC authors, and I've been meaning to read this. I've had it on my shelf. I need to get to it. I've heard it's a little bit more on the emotional side, and so I've been a little hesitant to read it. I was just kind of in a season of reading really cheesy, easy rom-coms. Sometimes it can be intimidating to read more of a heartfelt romance, but I've heard really good things about this one, so I'm excited to read it. We've seen a little bit of speculative fiction in this list so far, but I've got another one for you because I do really like speculative fiction, but again, I'm pretty selective on which speculative fictions I end up picking up. This is Oona Out of Order by Margarita Montimore, and Oona wakes up and every day it's a different day. It's not a sequential day. So she'll wake up every morning at a different age, different point in her life. And so things are feeling really random and out of order. So I'm really interested to read more about this and kind of see what the lesson is or purpose or theme that the author was going for in writing this book, because I think the premise is very interesting. Another big backlist book that I'm really excited to get to. This is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Some people love this book. In reading the synopsis, we shall see. There's a love triangle where she runs into a boy from her past. So I'm really interested to see kind of how it plays out and if it plays out in a way that still is satisfying to me, because having like an old flame while you are already committed to someone else doesn't sound like my cup of tea. But depending on how the authors write it, I could really enjoy it and the depth that that kind of conflict provides. We'll see. I've been meaning to get to this again because some people really, really love this book. Another sci-fi I've had on my shelf for a while is The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. I've read quite a few of her other books in this kind of realm, interconnected, standalone. They're not even really interconnected because most of the characters don't cross over, but it's in the same universe, I guess I should say. And honestly, I don't remember what this is about because I just saw another Becky Chambers book that I hadn't read yet, and I've really enjoyed her books, and so I hope to get to this one. There's an intergalactic truck stop type of a place, and so you get to see different people traveling through there and being grounded there. So that's kind of fun to see like what the characters will do when they can't leave this intergalactic truck stop type of area and they get to know each other. Another slightly paranormal romance that I've been looking at is The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. So this person dies unexpectedly, but then her guardian angel makes a deal with her that if she can accomplish something in the real world, then she'll be able to stay alive. I think that it has something to do with her soulmate or, you know, the person that she is meant to be with. So I'm really excited to read about it. It sounds like it's going to be kind of plucky and a fun take on death and dying, if that makes sense. I haven't read anything by this author, so I'm really interested to see how this author deals with this kind of premise. I have a crochet and knitting related book club over on Discord. I'll make sure to link it down below. But last year, in the final quarter of the year, I kind of revived the book club and we read With Her Own Hands by Nicole Narig. This is a nonfiction and I really, really love that book. One of my top 10 books of the year. If you want to see my other top 10 books from 2025, make sure to check out the video that I'll have linked up above and down below. But this is a book that I am hoping to include in that book club. I also want to have some fun nonfictions and fantasies, just things that are kind of either very related to the fiber arts or even just adjacent, some kind of connection, maybe a character knits or crochets, something like that. This is a book that I want to include in the Discord, and this is The Friday Night Knitting Club by Kate Jacobs. And there is another book in the series too, and I don't really remember anything about this other than there is this close-knit group of women who are in a knitting club together, and so you kind of see how they navigate changes and challenges in their life through this knitting club. I think I'd classify this next book as a fantasy. It's kind of in the general fiction with a fantasy element because the main character is a witch and kind of navigating their life as a witch. This is Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood. I read the first book by this author, Rewitched, and I really enjoyed it. And I loved that even though there was a romance subplot, it was much more a story about how the main character was growing and changing throughout the story. So I'm really looking forward to that kind of more general fiction type of a story in this book as well. And this cover art is really, really stunning. Though I definitely expect there to be a romance subplot in that book as well, because there was in the first. So we'll have to see if that is the case. We're getting kind of into the late fall, early winter time period where fantasy definitely reigns. This is Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. I've been going through all of T. Kingfisher's backlist. This is one of her most recent releases, if not the most recent release. So is it backlist? I don't know. But this is a book I have on my shelf that is by T. Kingfisher that I've been meaning to get to, and I'm really excited to get to it. This is a retelling or reimagining of Snow White. So that should be really fun to read about. I really love T. Kingfisher's brand of a gothic fantasy with some horror sprinkled in there and lots of witty banter and very lovable characters. There's just a feel to T. Kingfisher's works, and I've really loved everything that I've read by her. So I definitely want to keep going and reading more by her. Another series I'm hoping to finish this year, and this is a little bit sad because this was a nice cozy mystery series that has just been a really good palate cleanser for me. This is from the Shady Hollow mystery series, Mockingbird Court by Juno Black. Again, this is the last book in the series. If this premise sounds good to you, I would totally recommend this book. It is a cozy mystery series involving woodland critters in their woodland critter community. It is definitely cozy, not a ton of clues, not a ton of suspects, but it's just something that you can enjoy being along for the ride, seeing the relationships that these characters develop, and it's just so cute and cozy. Woodland critters solving mysteries. I love it. I've been meaning to read this next book for a while. This is Never Whistle at Night, and this is an Indigenous dark fiction anthology, so I think this would be perfect for spooky season. Again, I want to read more from BIPOC authors, and this book sounds really interesting. I just find folklore in general really fascinating, and I think that it would be really cool to read more Indigenous horror folklore. This looks like it's gonna fall over. Hopefully we'll stay put. These next two books are kind of a package deal, and they are The Songbird and the Heart of Stone and The Fawn and the Kiss of Dusk, both by Carissa Broadbent. I have both of these hardcovers on my shelf. They are part of the Crowns of Nyaxia universe, but this is an all-inclusive duology or duet. And I just haven't gotten around to reading them. And I know if I only put one of these on my list to read for 2026, I'll only read one of them. So I'm putting both of them to kind of force myself to get through them because they are thicker. They are a little bit more serious. I'm not very much a vampire fantasy person, though I really enjoyed the first two books in this universe, The Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I did really enjoy those books. And I read them towards the beginning of me coming back into reading, where they felt really long, and I'm hoping that these books will not feel quite as long since I am more used to reading longer books. But again, I will only read both of these books if they're both on my list for 2026, so I am prioritizing them for the year. And then the 26th book that I hope to read in 2026, and I will read more than 26 books, but as far as all the books that I'm prioritizing from my physical TBR, the last one on this list is A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle L. Jensen. This is the second book to A Fate Inked in Blood, which I enjoyed. It was based on Norse mythology and some interesting magic systems that, magics that have been gifted by the Norse gods and goddesses. And I think it's only a duology. So I really need to read the second book because I have it on my shelf. Got these really pretty metallic edges on there. I liked the first book. I would love to knock this one off of my list. All right, there are the 26 books that I hope to prioritize from my physical TBR. I also will be reading other books from my physical TBR as far as my goals for 2026. Besides these 26 books I want to prioritize, I want to have a net negative total of books on my physical TBR. So again, this situation in general is not a perfect solution for me, but this is the space that I have, and I really want to have fewer books on my physical TBR so I have easier access to the books that I have. I want to be more mindful about the books I'm purchasing, and this is an ongoing goal that I started in 2025, and I did have a net negative on my physical TBR list last year, but I would love to widen that gap and continue to decrease the total amount of books on my physical TBR. So I'm definitely prioritizing reading these books, getting audiobooks for these books I already have to try to get through them and clear them off my shelves. Another couple goals that I'm continuing from 2025 are reading more classics and reading more books by BIPOC authors. I didn't set any specific number goals for these goals last year, and I don't think I will this year too, but I would love, now that I've crunched the numbers of how many classics I've read and how many books by BIPOC authors I've read, that I can hopefully increase those numbers in 2026. So I'll make sure to pop up the numbers right here so you can see my statistics for 2025. And my goal is just to exceed those numbers for 2026. And then my final goal for 2026 in the realm of reading is to start working through this book. I don't have an expectation to finish it, but I saw this book at a local bookstore and I thought this was so cool. It says 52 diverse titles every book lover should read. This is a one-year journal with a recommended reading list from the American Library Association. So there are books from diverse authors in here. I was flipping through, most of them I haven't even heard of. So I'm really excited to broaden my reading. And I think this is also going to contribute to my goal of reading more books by BIPOC authors. I could theoretically work really hard at this, but I think it would burn me out if I tried to read one book every single week from this list. So what I'm going to do is just try and prioritize one book a month, so that I can make some good progress on this. I love that in here, there's a little synopsis of the book, and then there's a little journal prompt and a couple pages that you can journal about that book. Yeah, so it's like 3 pages to journal about that book. You can also put down your rating and when you read that book. So I think this is going to be a really good exercise in broadening my reading taste by starting to work through this. And again, trying to read 1 book a month, I think is a really solid goal to be able to make good progress on this journal. Those are all of my reading goals for 2026. Let me know down below if you have any specific reading goals. You can follow me along at Storygraph, where I keep track of all of my reading. I put all my reviews on there. So if you are interested in being my friend on Storygraph, you can definitely check out the link down below and kind of take a closer look at what I'm reading in real time. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books that are on my list for 26 in 2026. And again, if you have any other goals in mind, so I can cheer you on in the reading goals that you have for 2026. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you like this type of content and want to see more from me and keep a closer eye on what I am reading in the moment, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification down below to be notified every time I post a new video. And until next time, happy reading. Bye!
You did so good, buddy. You're sleeping now. I love it.
We made it through this video and we have put him to sleep.